fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Well, welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Mr. Joe Goldberg is here.
What, no moniker?
That's because I wanted to hear you say that word, moniker.
Moniker, yes. It's something you
Moniker
put on your shirt.
Lewinsky?
That's my initials, right? You put
Yeah.
those on your shirt and monikers.
Yeah. Moniker.
Then,
It's Moniker
yeah.
Goldberg.
It's stay out of the heat and stay in the gym, Goldberg.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Get you all toned up and in shape.
I'm toning
Yeah.
for my son's wedding.
Yeah, so you can be the
Where I am
Reverend Goldberg.
Thank
and
you.
you'll be
Thank
all,
you. I'm waiting. Yes.
Yeah, be all firmed up. You can wear a tight little T-shirt.
I actually tried on my thinnest suit yesterday, and I was happy to say I was a fit into it. I thought those expensive suits were aiming for goodwill, but maybe I'll keep on. Like, who wears suits except for the occasional wedding? But
Yeah.
you know,
It's
it's
a wedding
a
and
moral
funeral,
victory.
right? Yeah.
That's about it,
Well, that's good, but I mean, you can keep one anyway.
at the very least.
Well, yeah. How many are you going to be doing? Most of them are. You've been marrying off your kids like crazy.
Hey, this is the last kid I get. Well, this is it.
That's
But
what
I have a niece getting married.
Oh.
I got a cousin getting married. It's like, stop getting married.
Yeah, we
I wear three different
just
suits.
stop it. We've got enough Goldbergs.
Yeah, we're everywhere, like roaches.
We don't need any more Goldbergs, so stop getting married. Okay.
Well, it's like technology, like Ryan. It's everywhere. Can't get rid of us.
Yeah, he's got but he has AI babies,
He has AI. That's right. He's got digital babies.
digital babies. They're not.
A couple human ones too.
Oh, but
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, are we sure?
Let's unscrew the plates in the back of their head.
Yeah, and they have to. Yeah, this is going to be like that show. He has to wear a suit too, right? When they get married.
Right.
My God. So we're going to be talking about the new book, Gods of a New World, and it's Ryan Melsom. So thank you for being here, Ryan.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Alan and Joe.
So listen. So what's a small town boy from Canada doing in the big capital and doing all this? I mean, do you ever look back at your life and kind of go, why?
Yeah, all the time, honestly. I never could have called it in a million years where I ended up. I've crisscrossed the country a bunch of times. Only ever lived in Canada, but lived on the coast, lived in the interior, and back to Ottawa, lived in Kingston for a while, various things with school, and, met my wife, and so her family's out here, and we just can't quite decide.
Well, move to Chicago. I hear it's a great place.
Yeah, we're in the frying pan in another day.
Well,
Come on
so the writing world. Now this is kind of a commercial enterprise here. It's not like anything for school or university or any of that. So, was there a reason you went this way?
In terms of writing novels, or
into writing novels and kind of getting it out and that. Is there something that drew you to that?
Yeah, I mean, my future villa in the south of France, probably, but I
don't hold your breath.
Yeah, get on that.
What?
You can have mine.
Yeah, he's got 8.
Yeah, no, I've been fascinated by writing, since I was a little kid. I think that I grew up watching. I think a lot of writers start off as readers, but for me it was kind of actually film. So I watched a lot of Arnold films growing up, and they were instrumental in my development, probably in some healthy and maybe less healthy ways. But yeah, just always had a huge fascination with science fiction. And I wrote a few self-published books a few years ago, but I wanted to write something kind of more genre-based that tapped into that long-standing love. And I think that it was a lot of fun just going through the process of putting this crazy book together. And in terms of commercial aspirations, I mean, I'm pounding the pavement. I'm trying to get the word out there. It's been well received. It's was nominated or added to the Chapters Indigo, which is the big Canadian chain, added to their most anticipated science fiction books list. So, some nice, promising kind of early indicators, but I'll probably have to get to that house in the south of France through more conventional means.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Yeah,
It could
you never
just
do.
take off, and You never know. Now, so for me, being an older guy, this is like a cyberpunk thriller, rebellion, redemption, all this sort of stuff. It's like science fiction. How do you describe cyberpunk?
Oh, yeah. So I guess there's sort of an official tagline of cyberpunk, which is high tech and low life. So you've got, a world that's gone technologically crazy. You've got, in this novel, there's just so many different dimensions to that, everything from life extension to massive 3D printed cities to artificial intelligence and all this kind of stuff. So that's the high tech side. And then the low lives is, this is told very much kind of ground level. So there's this group of people in the novel, or something maybe beyond people in the novel, who refer to themselves as the gods, and they're kind of this trillionaire, uber elite, masters of society in many ways. But the novel's told through the perspective of a couple characters, James Kessler and Maree Shell. I think in terms of for what cyberpunk means to me, definitely the technology is a fascinating part. I've always had an interest, but it's about people at the ground level kind of trying to grapple with forces that are way beyond their control, and I think that this is a fairly timely topic in some ways, as people see, this unfolding future of AI taking jobs and all kinds of possibilities, and probably some of them threatening there. So, these massive historical forces and how individuals get wrapped up in these bigger things.
Hey, Ryan, this is Joe.
Yeah.
You might be surprised that this is not the first book where we've had authors say AI is kind of the theme of the book.
Yeah.
It seems to be a trend.
Yeah.
So, but everyone sort of identifies it slightly differently. And I'm wondering, I've read your synopsis since the book's not out yet. How do you define, or how are you using AI in your cyberpunk world? Which I hope this sets up my next couple of 18 questions. So what is AI in Ryan's book?
Okay, so on one level, AI there's a couple characters in the book who are AI, but what it is a tool to essentially get ahead in the business world. These large corporations that are kind of control the world of this book, they've completely monopolized it and are kind of using it to manipulate their own ends and accomplish the things that they want in the world. So, there's that dimension of it. I do think that there are plenty of writers out there who are very well versed and kind of more explicitly focused on the technological side of AI. I think that that's not exactly me. I've always been more interested in the intersection of technology and culture. And so that's the kind of lens I take on it. And I do sort of see AI as a metaphor here in some ways. I don't see it just as the exclusive technology. It's a metaphor for kind of almost alien forces or something that is beyond our control. So I guess coming back to that big theme.
In your book, is AI a bad thing? A good thing? It's trying to figure it out versus the humans?
Yeah.
Who are traditionally the bad things, the good humans, the bad humans?
So in my book, it really depends on who's controlling the AI, who gets to kind of control that narrative. So, the gods are essentially, I can talk a bit about them, but they're trillionaires. They're just a slightly, pushed ahead version of some folks who are in the world, some of the wealthiest people in the world today. And they've sort of used it, to become hyper intelligent and to be kind of all seeing. So this is why they start to refer to themselves as gods. And it's led by a woman named Athena Vardelos. Some of the gods are intensely sinister, just the most hollow, cynical human beings you could possibly imagine. And in some ways, this is in reference to, the Greek gods. There's definitely a couple very clear reference points to Greek mythology in the book. But Athena Vardelos, she's very interesting. So she's a woman with a plan. She has sort of a master plan, a master vision. And so she wants to take all of this harnessed intelligence, and essentially she wants to give it what she would see as a gift to the world. So she sees the world as a place that is sort of mechanistic, evil, sort of natural, survival of the fittest, and just this sort of brutal place. And the world of the novel has gone through a big collapse and everything like that. So she has a vision, and she wants to essentially integrate her consciousness and the other god's consciousness into matter itself, so that, wish fulfillment becomes possible, that you can manipulate kind of anything, create anything, make anything possible in this world. So is that evil? Is it not? I mean, some in some cases, definitely some of the gods have much more self-serving ends. She sees it as she saved the world once by sort of pulling it out of the collapse that it was facing, and sort of rallying the gods around this. But in a sense, what she's suggesting too is the end of free will, or the end of a sort of differentiated will. People no longer get to fully decide kind of their destiny. I don't know, maybe they never did, but this is taking it to a whole new level. It's complicated, in other words, and it really depends on who's wielding it.
Now, did you start by creating the world when you were doing this? Like, was this a world that you built and then you added the characters in the story, or how do you do that? Yeah.
So I definitely I see places. It's like I see dead people, but no, I see little reference there, but I see places, and I see them sometimes years in advance, and kind of large kind of structural elements and how they kind of fit into those places. So for this book, the way that I built the world is I had a kind of idea a few years ago to make something to do with modern day gods. So I would just take these huge cultural forces like, Amazon and Trumpism and, the EU or whatever, and just kind of throw all these, try to put them through the lens of like the modern day mythology or something like that. But that idea was pretty experimental and kind of out there. So it just sort of sat on the shelf for me. And then I started thinking, that I really did want to write some science fiction. I started kind of envisioning what kinds of worlds were possible there. And I think that a lot of the things that were happening around ChatGPT a few years ago, and just even 3D printing technology, this idea of printed cities really stuck with me. I had a dream about being in some kind of mega mall with a, sort of concrete plaza mall in the suburbs. So then I started to think of like, this suburban world of cyberpunk. So usually cyberpunk, just for the genre is typically set like right in the guts of a city. Like it's a really gritty, like, kind of rough world that's usually cyberpunk. But I thought, what if we put that lens of cyberpunk onto some dude who was out in the suburbs and kind of looking out at the city. And so from there, that's how it grew. In terms of the characters and how those end up kind of coming into play for me. So, I typically start characters in, almost a generic state. Every character is just Jeff for me when I start off. Every Jeff or Susie, or other. But
so schmo.
Yeah, and then they emerge into the world, and I realize like at some point in writing whatever I'm writing that actually I know exactly who this character is. I know exactly where they're going to go, and so it's this sort of game I play with myself of almost uncovering the character. But I can see the traces there right from the beginning of who I actually picture, and a lot of that has to do with just the world that they're in. So I build the world first, and the characters sort of get plugged in as slotted in as sort of I don't know, generic characters, and then they end up coming to life, and that's I wouldn't say that I'm a plot driven writer. I think it's really driven by the characters, their psychologies, and then definitely some of these world factors that start to influence all that.
Let me just say it from the point of view of the reader. I mean, this sounds complex, whatever.
Yeah.
Is it the kind of book that someone's going to say, oh, yes, I want to read about humanity and technology and worlds? And are you afraid that the reader's going to go, this is just more than my brain, my little, brain can handle? I mean, it's for real, because they got to read the back of your book and say, oh, this is something that's interesting, I want to read.
Yeah.
Were you fearful that in your world creation and the technology that you use, that people go, oh, man, I just understand AI, I don't forget it, I'm going to go read Jack and Jill or something?
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's a really good question. This is a fun book, and it's very like, it's very humorous. The characters are like kind of goofballs. They're in way over their heads. There's a lot of just very human stuff going on here. So a lot of the complexity that, I talk about in a kind of abstract way here, it ends up being kind of in the background. It's not really visible necessarily to the characters, but it unfolds in the world around them. In terms of the characters, the main character, James Kessler, or there's actually two main characters, and they're kind of an unlikely pair of allies. James Kessler, he's been through rough times. He lost his family in a kind of economic crisis and had to struggle with his sister and fight against a pretty scary environment for a kid to grow up in. And so he's kind of come through the other side of it. At the beginning of the novel, we see him and he's just sitting there in his backyard. He's like, he doesn't want to have anything to do with anything. He just wants to take it easy. He doesn't want to be part of history. He doesn't have any ambitions. He's like somehow made it out through the other side of it. And that's kind of cool for him. Maree Shell, like she's a firecracker. She's a, big shot VP. She's always lived a life of privilege, and she just kind of coasts through life. She just wants to jet set, abuse various substances and just melt her brain constantly. And so somehow these two end up together, and they've got some interesting threads that tie them together. But yeah, I mean, it's meant to be a kind of fun book. It's a very visual book. Everybody who reads it has said, this should be a movie. This is the way that this book works. It's just, you can see the world and kind of feel it as you go along. But yeah, I mean, pure escapism. It has a purpose, I guess. I mean, I'm sort of, I guess, pushing for a picture that people can do something about the crazy world that we live in. And I suppose it's got maybe that end kind of implicit in it, but it's, yeah. Try not to get too lofty in the actual telling of the story.
So your two main characters, how do you experience them? How do you write them? And how do you do the dialogue? Are you hearing these characters? Do you visualize them? Do you see them? Or what's your process?
So I think, as I said, they start off fairly generic, but they have, I guess, interests. And that kind of creates a bit of momentum for them. So James, he says that he doesn't want to have anything to do with anything. But he's sitting at work and he's like looking at these, there's this weird kind of mystery that happens early in the novel. There's this Eastern monk. He's just streaming in, sort of virtually streaming in. It's, slightly pushed ahead technology, but he's basically sitting in a room with a bunch of people in Nepal. And this monk, seems to produce a flower straight from his hand. And this miraculous thing, and everybody's sort of in awe, and there's all this buzz around this. And so he's, James, he wants to kind of lay low, but he's got this searching kind of dimension. Now, Maria, on the other hand, like what she has is, she just, as I said, just kind of wants to melt her brain and not really do much of anything. She's super wealthy. She's won all those games and everything like that, but she, basically encounters a kind of near-death experience. There's an assassination to somebody close to her, assassination attempt early in the novel. And so she crosses paths with James, and she sees him. He's got this, what's he doing with this weird spiritual stuff? Like, that's such a waste of time. And that's kind of how they end up colliding. She has a kind of moment of crisis in her life, and he's just kind of doing what he's doing and just trying to lay low, and they end up intertwined. She's like, well, I want to find out what this miracle is. Is it bullshit? Is it like, is this nonsense? Is it something that's, just some kind of scam? And she ends up pulling him out of his world of safety and taking him off.
Okay, so I may have harp on this topic one last time. You mentioned the Arnold movies that you watched and AI. Yeah. And he said the Terminators were whimsical in some ways.
Yeah.
But they weren't musical comedies. Right?
Nope.
The world came to an end, and there were skulls being crushed by things, and there's people eating rats.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of when technology happens, it's apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Right? And it's been happening since Industrial Revolution. They were writing books, and every time technology comes, it destroys society. Yep. And it's happening with AI. Why that trend? Is your book in that trend, or is there a happy ending? Do people make flowers out of the blue, or what's the sort of moral ending of your book in the sense of tone and what happens to the world?
Well, I don't know if I can give away the full ending.
I know. It's a bit of the end. I was asking for the end.
Feeling unexpected. Okay, so here's the thing. So if you watched any science fiction movies in the 70s, just throwing it out there, like, what was the general tone of those movies?
Of the TV,
yeah, like say Planet of the Apes, or
Well, those are all apocalyptic movies. The world came to an end, and
Exactly.
and he's trying to survive in the worst circumstances.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the 70s, it was always a bleak ending. Like, I think at the end of the second Planet of the Apes movies, they actually like nuke the planet. Like, some
Yeah, they
future
blow it up.
version of humanity has survived, but they actually like end up destroying what little they have left. So, but something happened, I think, different in the 80s, probably had to do with Reagan. But, Arnold became this hero that it was all about hope. There's this element of hope there that became fascinating. So yes, the world is bleak. Yes, like the, evil overlords are controlling everything, and the little guy doesn't have a chance, and, they get kind of manipulated and tossed around. But I'm thinking movies like Running Man or Total Recall, and those are two of my favorite Arnold ones of all time. Terminator's a bit different, but there's hope there too, right, with Kyle Reese. But anyway, so that dimension came in, but I think we're in a bit of a different time than the 80s now. It's a very complicated time we live in some ways. And so James grew up watching Arnold movies with his dad and got all that and kind of loved it, but he's not that at all. Like, he's just an average guy. He's the suburb punk, he's not the cyberpunk. He's not this big kind of action hero guy. And so I think that's where I take the book, basically, is, this idea that, like, yes, there are these intensely bleak things, but it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that the world is going to go off the rails because of this technology. It's complicated, it's messy, and there's, definitely a lot of pitfalls. But I think that what I'm trying to do in the way that I tell the story is just give something to kind of hang on to for people, that they can make a difference, that they can matter. And so there's a, going back to my Star Wars, love when I was a childhood, like, it's the ragtag bunch of rebels in the end that kind of do something about, these seemingly completely overwhelming and sort of hopelessly overwhelming forces. So that's where I take it with that in terms of the tech. So yeah, the tech, it gets bad, but it's also, in the world of the novel, it's gotten a little better too. The gods have kind of moved in. They've established, housing and food and services for kind of everybody. So rather than just continually taking away things and accruing them to themselves, they've decided, well, no, that's going to actually destroy the world. So maybe we need to try something different here. So there's hope in here in many ways.
They don't all die at the end.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh, come on.
But,
let's just say we really like Old Yeller.
The end, and it would be
it can't be a happy
ending.
ending.
Them would feel somehow like not the right ending for the book.
Yeah, well, we don't want any happy endings. Come on, we don't want it all to be bad.
No.
Negative, scary. Well, I'll tell you. So, with this, then, does that kind of work out to be your subtext or your meaning then? Like that things will get better? There's hope always. Is that kind of a meaning through the book that you hope people get, or maybe there's something deeper?
I would say so. I mean, that definitely. I think that, this idea of like the ragtag bunch of rebels, it's, I think it's an argument that the world is just strengthened through many people coming together and all sorts of people coming together. And, I like I said, I grew up in Star Wars, and, you've got like a princess, you've got the scoundrel, you've got the big dog man, you've got the dorky teenager who has magical powers and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, that's the kind of assembly that I want here. And the reason I think that that's important for this book is because it gives a lot of different people ways that they can be interested or maybe see themselves in this and in the future that it proposes. Yeah. So it's not like all roses and daisies, as the book progresses. Things are kind of chaotic and pretty messy, but at the same time, like, I would say that is definitely the deeper meaning, I guess, that I'd love readers to take away from this. And, Yeah.
So what do you got planned now? What do you got? You're out. You're kind of promoting this and that. So what's what are you working on now?
Yeah. So I am actually trying to write a novel. So I have actually three novels that I've written in the last 2 years, and now I'm like a third of a way through a third one. Like, I just hit this, I don't know, prolific. I got a method, and it's been working for me. But I guess the one that I'm currently working on, it's this one's a mind bender. I don't know if this would be for everybody, but it's basically a quantum apocalypse where people in the world have become so kind of disconnected from one another and so like embedded in their own version of reality. So you think of like all the echo chamber stuff happening and the sort of political divisions happening right now. So I pushed that a little further, but it's become so bad that reality itself starts to decohere and kind of break apart in these weird and very kind of sometimes nightmarish ways in the book. It's again, I'm always the optimist, and so like I don't think it's gonna necessarily end on the bleakest possible note. But yeah, that's where I'm going. It's kind of a metaphor for right-left politics right now and where that's all headed, and just this fact that people can't even talk to each other, in a lot of cases anymore, or see anything kind of on the same wavelength. And so I guess I'm playing around with ideas of quantum physics and multiple universes, and how there's all these potential universes, and perhaps when people's view of things get so divergent, like these multiple universes even stop intersecting. So it's hurting my brain writing that one, and
quantum physics. Boo!
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But it's fascinating stuff, and I'm not a quantum physicist, and I've tried many times to wrap my head around some of it, but just as a series of metaphors. And this is always the way that I approach things. It's fascinating stuff, and it creates a lot of possibilities. Even just the idea of multiverses, that everything's kind of forking off at every possible second, and for some reason they don't, stay connected. So you make a decision now and it splits off, and yeah.
Well, you can call that book "Fork Off."
There you go. See?
I'll try the deal. A beer till Thursday. Yeah.
I don't have a title. Usually I have a title, but I don't think I have one for that one yet. Now I got one.
No, Fork Off. That could work. It really could. Yeah. Get a lot of controversy, but that's always good. So listen, let's talk about now. Are you set up on social media? Do you have a website? Where do you like readers and fans to find you?
Yeah. So I'm most active on Blue Sky right now. I find that there's just a great community of people there, and a lot of readers on there. So that's, and a great writing community in that. So that's, if you want to see just my most, fascinating, totally banal daily thoughts, and just kind of randomness through and various things, that's where you'd see me most active. I have a page on Facebook as well. Instagram. I have a website that has a blog on it, which is ryanmelsom.com. I'm going to be perfectly honest, until I have that house in the south of France, I have not had the time to be active on that. So it's a few years old, but it was, I think, some interesting enough ideas in the blog post and that there's probably some stuff that people could dig through there. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have all that on our website as well, so people can find you along with the book. And what can I say? Gods of a New World, Ryan Melsom. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.